the first wrap up this video segment that we're producing. Something like that. No, I'm just kidding.
And go.
That's what
Right? And go. Hi, welcome to another segment of Beyond the Business. We are here today with a very interesting and fun business. Banderas Tequila.
fun for us, definitely.
Yes. And this is Javier Gonzalez with us today. Thank you so much for coming here with us.
No worries. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here today and kind of share a little bit about us and also to drink some tequila.
Yeah, well, that's what we're excited about. I mean,
Definitely.
one of these things we've talked about before, doing these video shoots, and we had a tradition to go to restaurants, and so it was our opportunity that shoot at lunch because then we can eat and we get some good food, and then we got something to talk about afterwards. Now we get to have a little bit of drink.
That's right. Yeah. So hopefully y'all eat beforehand. Otherwise, we're gonna be
Having to do the
Yeah.
walk in a straight line
yes,
before
yes,
walking out of here.
Definitely.
So I'm intrigued in terms of the actual process making tequila, and
Right.
and I've always, I guess, been told, and we've been informed as a bartender, you're told that the process for making this is a long process, and so you tell us a little bit about your tequila brand and what
Right.
goes into making it.
Right. So I think there's a lot to digest just in what you we're talking about. Just because tequila, there's so many different types, right? There's the mix, there's the ones with additives, there's the ones with 100% agave azul. So our tequila has 0% additives. So meaning that's not going to give you a headache, or it's not going to give you a hangover. You're not going to have any stomach issues. It's going to be very good. And then apart from that, it's also very pure. So you're going to get I like to say when people taste Mil Banderas, it's like they're seeing color for the first time. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you'll be able to taste the actual agave, and it's kind of like once you taste it, you're not going to forget it, and you'll be able to distinguish that from every other tequila apart from Mil Banderas.
Okay.
Which is something I found very special when I was first starting out in creating the brand and the company, was that this was the first time, having to go to Jalisco, Mexico, talk to many different distilleries, talk to many different master tequileros, right, to find, our specific flavor, our specific recipe, and spirit, if you would say.
Yeah.
And so, once I tasted Mil Banderas, I was just like, wow, like this is the first time that I could actually taste what the thing is made out of, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think that when you're creating a product, you want to have something that's unique. You don't want to make the same old, and so there is a process behind finding that recipe,
right?
And what creates this flavor that, number one, you guys enjoy, but also is something that a consumer wants as well.
Right.
I think that what is unique about you is that you are a Laredo business, and so this process, again, we don't think of this type of product coming from a small town, and so I think it's unique that you have created that and brought that here to Laredo.
Definitely, and it's been a long process. It has not been easy, right? And so one of the first things that got me started was, okay, how does one go about, starting their own company, right? First of all, starting their own company in general, because there's so many different processes.
Starting a business in general, it takes a lot of courage and
The product is
that fear.
The product is the first step, and then there's all the other stuff that goes along with just a normal business setup, but you are unique.
Exactly, and beforehand I was studying medicine. I was well on my way to becoming a doctor, and then the pandemic hit, and at that time I was working inside of a hospital in the ER, and so I was right there in the heat of it, and so I thought, okay, well, what's if I'm not going to be a doctor, what's the best next thing? And I thought, okay, I'm gonna start my own business.
We're gonna make tequila.
Yeah, well,
How can you still make people feel good?
Yes, mi mamá, for the Spanish listeners, mi mamá dice, ya dejaste de curar cuerpos, ahora estás curando almas con tequila. Yeah, so you stop curing bodies, now you're curing souls. Because now you're drinking it and everybody's getting loose and having fun. Yes.
I like that.
And so, yeah, that's what my mom tells me. But, for me, I started off with, what am I passionate about?
Okay.
What are the things that I wake up and I'm like, oh, like I can talk about this for days, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, some people it's medicine, right? Some people it's history. Some people it's tequila, you know, agave. Some people it's whiskey, bourbon, wine. You know, there's many different people that know about many different wines and things like that. So for me, it was just saying, okay, I'm very passionate about tequila. Right, I love drinking it. I love making memories with it. I love sharing it because it is the spirit of a nation. And for me, I think tequila is that perfect spirit that kind of bridges many different countries and many different cultures together.
Right, definitely.
Just like Laredo does.
Yep.
Laredo bridges Mexico and the United States, but it also bridges, you know, all those Central and South American countries that have to import their products into, you know, the United States or Canada. And so Laredo is like that bridge, just like Banderas, just like tequila, that, you know, unifies people and
Brings everything together.
exactly.
And it's funny because whenever I travel, for sure up north, they just see us and they right away know, oh, you're Mexican. Oh, you like tequila. Do you
Right.
want tequila? And it's right away how they associate us, like, oh, Mexican tequila. It's
Right.
just like how they say Mexican, a taco.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and it's awesome how you say we're in Laredo, and that's where we just blend everything together. The best of both worlds. Mexico, U.S. come together here in Laredo.
It is a product that has a cultural significance to it.
Yes.
I mean, especially down here. So
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Well, again, when it comes to creating that brand and your origin story, I mean, can you tell us, I mean, when did you first, I mean, tell us about your experience with the tequila and understanding that that's the path that you wanted to go. Well,
Right.
how'd that start?
And once I realized what I wanted to do, which was own a business, I followed my passion, which was tequila. So then I thought, okay, well, how does one go about making a tequila company? You know, because you hear all these stories about, you know, celebrities going out and making their own tequilas,
Yeah.
and you never hear about the little guy, you know, like me from a small town.
You
know,
don't have to be a celebrity to make a product.
yeah, you know, you don't have to, you know, you just have to be crazy enough to dare into the unknown. And so, you know, I thought to myself, how does one go about doing this thing? And then, you know, I started researching, you know, all the histories of Don Julio,
Yeah.
Casamigos, Teremana, like how did they get started? You know, how did the people who have managed to find a way to be successful in what I want to do, how did they first get started?
Yeah.
And you start learning about how Don Julio first worked at the agave fields as a jimador, and then slowly bought his own distillery, and then also like Casamigos, how, you know, Clooney and his best friend were, you know, in Mexico, and I think they were selling houses, I'm not quite sure.
Wow.
And yeah, and so they always called them the Amigos, and like that's the house of the Amigos, so that's the Casa of Amigos, so that's where the name comes
okay.
from. And yeah, there's so many tequilas out there, and you sort of think, okay, well, how did they even do this? And then, you know, once you, I guess, learn a little bit about how they first got started, you start then taking another step forward. You start moving forward, you know, one step at a time, and then you're like, okay, well, most of them had to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
They had to go to Jalisco. They had to meet the people who day in and day out are there because of tradition. Like this tequila was made with the people from Jalisco. It wasn't like just me. It wasn't just the team here in Laredo, but it was the team in Jalisco. You know, the people who plant the agave seeds, who take care of the plants, you know, who, you know, harvest it, who cut it, the jimadores, who cook it, who, you know, distill it, who, you know, put it away in wooden barrels, and then it's there for months and months and months, and they have to take care of those barrels, right? And so once all that's done, you know, then, you know, you start working on you know, the tequila, and then eventually it comes to Banderas. But, you know, all that process was handed down through generations. And it's, you know, it took me going to Jalisco to learn all about tequila and how it first was derived from mezcal, which was the It's another spirit that comes from the agave plant, and
It's a
so
rawer format. Yeah.
it's a lot sweeter, I would say, than tequila. And so, you have to go. Eventually, you have to step into the unknown. You have to take that leap of faith, because it's one thing to do research and to write things down and write everything on paper and theoretically have a hypothesis. I studied biology in college, so I kind of took the scientific method towards it. I wrote a hypothesis. I wrote the data, right, the observations. I wrote the experiment. I derived the null hypothesis, like what do I need to change, and then eventually you get to the conclusion, which is Mil Banderas, right?
And right now, we're going to take a quick break, but I want you to tell us why Mil Banderas. Right now, you mentioned that you will dive into that in a minute, and every research you have done, you went to Jalisco, where it all came from, but I'm very intrigued to know why the name. So we're going to take a quick minute break, and then we'll be right back.
Great.